Now ideally it would be best if the dial board was about half an inch thick, but I've only got this 3/8. And it'd be even better if it was mahogany on one side, but it's not, so I guess I'm going to have to stain it. But anyway, well, I guess what I could do is I could always resaw a bunch of the mahogany I've got and, laminate it together. But I want to get this done. I'm enjoying this, but I just got a new pen kit from William Woodwright, and I've sort of got a hankering to see what it's going to look like, and I want to get at it, so anyway, sorry about that. This drill press has the ability to slow rate down to about 150 RPM, and that is if you change the belts. And it's kind of like putting your pickup truck into low range. Lots of torque at the axle. And with this, I got lots of torque at the spindle. Oh, and by the way, did you notice the idiot string? I'm not running around the workshop looking for the key all the time. Well, I just got my first major setback here. I forgot to allow for the fact that when you open the round glass door, it widens off to the left a bit, and now it's banging into the left-hand side of the frame there. So, I'm gonna have to maybe cut away a little bit on the uprights, and yeah, that's too bad. Wish I'd have thought of that. Now, I didn't set the oscillating spindle sander to any particular angle. I just sort of eyeballed it and thought, that looks about right. Now I fully realize that this isn't as good as had I made the whole thing an inch or so wider in the first place, but I think it's going to be okay. I'll know in a few minutes. Well, it's the next day, and I finally was able to get around to testing this out. And it looks like I'm going to be able to open up the glass door at about right angles to the dial. That should be enough to be able to turn the key. And I'm going to have to be really careful when I'm opening it that I don't accidentally force it, because that little hinge will break. I was going through my tins of stain trying to find some stain to stain the dial board, and I came across this. Now this goes back a lot of years. Look at the price. And I believe it came from Kmart. Now that was back when Kmart actually had a hardware department. You try and even find a hardware store now, just to get some nails. And if you do, you'll get a little package of nails, like 10 nails for $1, and they'll be in a little package that you can't get open. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating. There is Home Depot. Anyway, we'll see what we can do with this. Now all the pigment had pretty well settled to the bottom, and it was pretty well solidified from being sitting there for many years. And when I was looking at this, and especially when I was putting it onto the piece of plywood here, I was trying to remember when was it that I actually used that and why. And then all of a sudden I remembered. I had made a bookcase for my mom and dad back when I was in my late teens. And I had got this little tin, and I had used it on the back of the bookcase. Now, the most of the bookcase itself was real mahogany. I think I've got a little video clip of that. I'll see if I can find it. Anyway, so I remember, as best I remember, I sort of rubbed it in a little bit with a rag, a small rag. I didn't goop it on like I'm doing here. Now the reason I'm using sandpaper here is because I'm hoping that if I rough the surface, it'll give it sort of a matte finish, and that'll also help keep the stain as dark as possible. I'm not wanting anybody to actually see this dial board. I want the dial and the mahogany frame to sort of stand out. And if the dial board is light, it's going to stand out. So I want to try and make it as dark as possible. And here's that video clip. I save all my video clips, almost all of them anyway. And this was taken a few years ago. And that bookcase is sitting in my mom's place, and it probably looks just exactly like that right now. And the back of it, at least the inside of the back, will look just like this little piece of plywood. And I'm 69 now, so that thing must be about, almost 50 years old. So that means this little tin is almost 50 years old, or thereabouts. Interesting, at least to me.